And we have so many reluctant Republicans so afraid to do their duty. Oh my God. The Democrats steal with impunity, and we are afraid to do our duty.
Okay, I'm getting another update as we speak. In Georgia, Ware County Election Director confirmed. Okay, it is now confirmed by the Ware County Elections Director.
Where's our gumption? Where's our backbone? Where's our dedication to our Constitution?
This is elections. This is the backbone of democracy. And all of you who have not said a damn word are complicit in this.
That when they recently completed their hand count audits, it showed that the electronic vote count shorted Donald Trump 37 votes and added 37 votes to Joe Biden. This is confirmed by the Ware County Elections Director.
What they should be afraid is, what's your conscience going to say? If you believe in God like me, what's God going to say? Number two, can the legislature call itself into session, since this is a power that derives from the United States Constitution, not the state constitution? Answer, of course.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Bombshell, negative, destructive information about corrupt Fox News. More information about Harrison Deal. What is the latest and what is happening there in the state of Georgia? And we're going to take a couple of swipes at the corrupt media. A lot to talk about. Let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Folks, we have a lot of ground to cover, and I want to try to move fast. As always, if you can please like, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the notifications bell. On Parler, you can find us at Ohio for Freedom. On YouTube, we're at Ohio for Freedom. So that really helps us, and we appreciate it very much. Okay, over the weekend, there was a bombshell story that was released with some very damaging information about corrupt Fox News. That's how I'm going to refer to Fox News going forward. And it connects a lot of dots, and it crosses a lot of T's, dots a lot of I's, and we're going to talk about that. But there was some information that was sent to me about Harrison Deal, tragic story of the 20-year-old that was a campaign staffer for Kelly Loeffler and a former intern for David Perdue and was dating Governor Kemp's daughter. But there was some information that was sent to me from people local to the area, and there was so much interest in that video. I just want to pass it on to you. You can judge for yourself its credibility. It seems pretty credible to me, but I want to get right into it, and I'm going to read that first screenshot. I'm going to read the screenshot that was sent to me from this Georgia resident, and it takes a while. Today is one for the books. I was driving to go shopping, just a normal day. While coming past Pooler Parkway, I noticed a smoke like dark smoke. I came closer and noticed there was an accident that just happened. I saw 3 vehicles on fire. My first reaction was to make sure everyone was out of the vehicles. I rushed out and checked on the drivers and made sure everyone was out, at which time they told me there's one driver stuck in a vehicle and it's on fire. I heard beating and screaming coming from the truck. I grabbed my concealed weapon, cleared my chamber, and used my pistol to bust out the window. I was trying to help free the man trapped inside. I was screaming for help and doing everything I could to help free him. Another semi-driver stopped and grabbed a fire extinguisher and tried to spray the driver's side, but the fire had overtaken the vehicle. I was getting burned on my arm and hands. I kept trying to do everything until the fire took over all vehicles, and I had to back away. I tried everything I could, and the guy trapped inside knew I was trying, but the fire was overtaking so quick. To whoever he was and his family, I'm sorry for your loss. I tried everything I could today. I know you saw me trying, and I know in these situations there's only so much you can do. One of the drivers involved told me not to help. That's the difference between you and me. I'll do whatever it takes to save a life, and then sit back and watch one lose theirs. Today was a memory that will go on the rest of my life. Just a few minutes ago, I was told it was Harrison Deal. He was a young guy. I truly wish I was able to get him out. I looked up the profile of the young man that posted that. I'm not going to mention his name, and I did not try to contact him. He doesn't need some guy from Ohio trying to get in touch with him. Looks legitimate to me, folks, but think of the imagery. A young man trapped in a vehicle, and he's burning. And someone's trying to rescue him, and he knows someone's trying to rescue him, but it's not successful. It's horrific. Another post, which I can't find, I'm going to save the time and just tell you about it, that people said they heard an explosion a mile away, like a bomb. You know, I did a little bit of mental math, and I can tell you that in my lifetime, I have easily driven 3 million miles in the United States. So I've seen a few accidents. You've seen a few accidents. I never associate in my mind an accident with a boom, with an explosion like that. Did it really happen? We don't know. Are we crazy for wondering if it did? I don't think so. I wanted to show you this too. This is the key fob to my wife's 2019 Mustang GT. It's got a 5.0 and a 10-speed transmission. It's black convertible, sharp car. But one of the nicest features on that car is this little button right here. Because you push that button twice, and it will remote start the car. You can be quite a distance from that car and remote start it. In fact, if you use an Apple CarPlay app, you can actually remote start that car if you're in another state. We've never done that. My point would be, is it beyond the realm of possibility that if someone was sinister and wanted to send a message that they could remote detonate an explosive on a young campaign staffer's car? It's just something to think about. Okay, I'm going to play this next clip because we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about Georgia, and I got an answer to a question I had been wondering, and it was provided to me courtesy of Rudy Giuliani.
Number 2, can the legislature call itself into session, since this is a power that derives from the United States Constitution, not the state constitution? Answer, of course.
That was a question I had been wondering and asked a couple of people, because they're in Georgia. You keep hearing this cry for the governor needs to call a special session. But as relates to the authority regarding elections that is derived from the Constitution, that is given to state legislators, do they have that authority if the governor allows them to convene? I didn't think so, but Rudy Giuliani, in one of the many hearings that he had last week, had a constitutional a law professor, I believe, but certainly a constitutional expert, and he asked him that question. And the answer to the question is they certainly can call. They don't need to ask permission. And folks, let me just say, that is something that needs to happen more and more in this country, is people need to exercise their own authority without asking somebody else's permission. And so I don't know if it'll play out that way, but if the Georgia state legislature wants to convene with or without the involvement of the Secretary of State, or the approval of the Secretary of State, or the approval of the governor, or anybody else, they have the authority to decide the electors for that state. But and why? Because they are elected by the people, and they're given that authority by the Constitution of the United States. But the people that would argue against that the most are the unelected people, the people that nobody ever voted for. And I'm going to show you one of those people.
Senators, you have not condemned this language or these actions. This has to stop. We need you to step up, and if you're going to take a position of leadership, show some. This is elections. This is the backbone of democracy, and all of you who have not said a damn word are complicit in this.
I gotta show you how this guy is working in conjunction with the mainstream media. This article from the Daily Caller. Republican Georgia election official Gabriel Sterling explodes on Trump for inspiring violence with election claims. And we read down here. Now, listen to this guy's title. Georgia Voting System Implementation Manager. When you need 5 words to describe your title, guess what you are? An unelected official. Nobody ever voted for this guy. Let's go on. A visibly angry Sterling claimed during a Tuesday press conference that Trump's rhetoric and that some of his top supporters resulted in a, listen to this, 20-year-old contractor who worked on the election process receiving death threats. I don't think so. And now let's read this paragraph. He said, Trump has the right to go to the courts, but added, what you don't have the ability to do, and you need to step up and say this, is stop inspiring people to commit potential acts of violence. Someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get shot, someone's going to get killed, and it's not right. It's not right. And this Associated Press article concludes with these powerful words. Tuesday, the Associated Press said the Justice Department has not uncovered any evidence of widespread voter fraud in the election as alleged by Trump and his supporters. What is one thing that the left is notorious for doing all the time? It's accusing those on the right of doing exactly what they're doing. If anybody is incendiary, it's this unelected bureaucrat, this Georgia election how many ever words that is. Nobody voted for this guy. Nobody voted for him. You know one thing that happens when demons are cast out? They tend to squeal. They tend to go through a lot of grotesque manifestations. That's what's happening right here, because this unelected official is presiding over a cesspool of corruption. And by the way, he's trying to imply that Trump supporters are these violent individuals. Remember just before the election, and they're boarding up all these businesses for all the violence and all the damage that's going to be performed by all these Trump supporters? Well, guess what? That never happened. When Trump supporters show up to protest, the place is cleaner after they leave than when they first arrived. And so this is just complete nonsense, and it's hysteria. This guy's presiding over a cesspool of corruption, and I'm going to show you some of that evidence of that corruption right here. One more piece of new news from Georgia. This is 10 hours old at 5:30 on Sunday evening on the East Coast, or Eastern Time. Rob Hurst, CPA, Ware County, Georgia, has broken the Dominion algorithm. Using sequestered Dominion equipment, Ware County ran an equal number of Trump votes and Biden votes through the tabulator, and the tabulator reported a 26% lead for Biden. 37 Trump votes were used in the equal sample run, had been switched from Trump to Biden. In actual algorithmic terms, this means that a vote for Trump was counted as 87% of a vote, and a vote for Biden was counted as 113% of a vote. Those conducting the tests were so shocked they ran the same ballots again. The same results appeared. All right, 2 videos ago we showed you where Gordon Favorito, the gentleman that was not allowed to testify at one of the hearings there in Georgia, had evidence. He had found 37 votes that had been flipped. Well, they followed up on that, and using a machine that was sequestered, it couldn't be moved, they inputted ballots that they manually knew the count of, and it came out that they switched a certain percentage from Trump to Biden, and they were shocked, so they did it again, and it came out exactly that way. And as Mr. Favorito said in the clip that I played last video, or the video before that, it was exactly the same percentage that Biden is now supposedly leading President Trump. There's a lot of corruption that's happened there in Georgia. And I want to get to this business about Fox News, but Fox News is more and more becoming like what their counterparts are in the propaganda mainstream media. And I want to play one example from the Associated Press right now. Let's listen to what Deepa has to say.
Deepa, this is big news. What do we know about this call?
That's right, Alex. This is an extraordinary step taken by the president, trying to call the Republican governor of Georgia, someone who he's actually been attacking and going after in these last couple of weeks, telling him to overturn the results of the election to make sure that it's in his favor. We know that Joe Biden won the state of Georgia. He was the first Democrat to do so since Bill Clinton's win in 1992.
I feel sorry for this young little twit. Sorry if I'm using harsh language, but I'll stick by it. This crazy little twit. What are you standing outside with the mask over? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to school? But she just got through telling 2 lies. She's looking right in the camera. She's doing what she's told to do. This isn't original with her. She's doing exactly what she's told to do, but she's looking right in the camera, and she's saying that President Trump has called the governor of Georgia and said, just overturn the election. No. President Trump wants an honest counting. Go back to the original ballots, verify signatures, because he knows that that will reveal what the actual tally should be, and it'll also reveal what the amount of corruption is. Then she goes on to say, we know that Joe Biden won. Honey, we don't know that Joe Biden won. We know more and more how y'all are trying to portray that, but that's not what had happened. I'm going to play one more clip of her, and here we go.
And the president here has consistently been focusing on this state, saying that there needs to be signature matching, which is essentially a complicated process of asking the state to confirm that the signatures on these absentee ballots match the ones that are in the system.
It's complicated to match signatures? Really? It's complicated to match signatures. Is that the best you can do?
Telling Republican voters to come out and make sure they cast their ballots, even though you see the president saying that the election was rigged, that it was fraudulent, and then providing absolutely no evidence to back that up whatsoever. So there's a little tightrope being woven.
Providing absolutely no evidence whatsoever. They have stuck with that from day one. That's the lie they decided on, and they stick with it, and they stick with it, and they stick with it. If I were to simply read all of the different types of evidence, we'd be here for another hour. I am willing, from the generous and soft part of my heart, to believe that this young lady is young enough and naive enough to not really be aware of the evil, and I say that word advisedly, the evil, the demonic evil that she's participating in. She's not really fully aware of it. I do not cut the same amount of slack for this next gentleman with whom you are all familiar.
Georgia, there have been more than 55 lawsuits brought forward by the president and his allies. 38 have been dismissed by judges. There have been investigations directed by the Justice Department, by the Attorney General. The Attorney General came back and said there's no evidence of widespread fraud. So the process has played out, hasn't it? And there's no evidence of widespread fraud. Why can't you accept the results?
So that's Georgie Boy Stephanopoulos talking to Senator Mike Braun from Indiana. Why is he talking to Mike Braun from Indiana? In my opinion, they're trying to make a new John McCain out of Mike Braun from Indiana. Why? Because he is weak, he is wobbly, he is wishy-washy, he is easily manipulated. Georgie didn't quite get the result from Mike Braun that he wanted to get, but that's why they have him on there. But George mentions all these cases that have been thrown out. Well, George, what about the cases that haven't been thrown out? And a lot of these cases that you mentioned weren't brought by President Trump's actual team. And then he goes on to say that Attorney General Barr said there's no evidence. That's not true. George, as usual, you're lying. You're an evil guy in an evil business, and you've been lying since day one, and you're lying right now. That is not what the Attorney General said. He said that he has not so far seen the evidence because they haven't really looked for it. But that wasn't good enough for Georgie Boy. He had to press weak, wobbly, manipulatable Mike Braun a little bit farther.
The Secretary of State did not mention in Georgia, the video where after a counting place closed, you see boxes of ballots coming out from underneath the table. I know that's kind of a graphic example, but
well, I have to stop you right there. No, that it wasn't mentioned because it didn't show anything improper. He's spoken to that this week. That was exactly the proper process for counting the ballots. There wasn't anything wrong shown in that video at all. So you're just throwing out a claim out there that doesn't prove what you're saying.
In George Stephanopoulos' world, if you repeat somebody else's lie, then you're telling the truth. Well, that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's repeating someone else's lie. But George, you're lying. You're just like Barack Obama. When Barack Obama said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Obama was lying. He knew that he was lying. He was lying on purpose. You're lying right now, and you're lying on purpose. But you push back and you say, this is refuted because the Secretary of State said that there was nothing improper there. So just because a corrupt Secretary of State says something, that makes it true? That ain't going to be. What about a couple of other things? George, were there observers when those pulled out from underneath the table ballots were being counted? No. And by the way, were the observers earlier in the day ever able to actually observe? No. Were those ballots visible during the counting day that they were there? No, they were hidden underneath a table. And then the Secretary of State lied and said that the observers were never told to leave, but that was a lie. They were told to leave. There's lots of ways that that's been proven. So you are perpetrating a lie, and you're disappointed that you weren't able to beat into submission meek, weak, wobbly, wishy-washy Mike Brown. George, you are a liar, and the days of you getting away with it, I believe, are numbered. The article from the American Report is lengthy and chock full. We're just going to read some of the opening lines. For 7 years, Fox News and Rupert Murdoch hid from the American people information the cable news network possessed about cyber warfare weapons, hammer, and scorecard. The hammer's application, known as scorecard, was used in a covert operation to steal U.S. elections, according to Dennis Montgomery, the CIA contractor turned whistleblower who created the hammer and scorecard. Fox News was complicit in the information warfare campaign, aka psychological warfare operation, to brainwash Americans into believing that Joe Biden had won the election. Okay, now we get to the big stuff. If you've hung out with me this long, I really appreciate it, because now we're gonna talk about this bombshell information on fake, phony, highly corrupt Fox News. But I gotta pull an Elizabeth Warren on you. First, I'm gonna grab a beer. No, actually, I'm gonna grab a cup of coffee, and then we're gonna dig into this. You wanna stay tuned? There. That's better. Now, the information that we're going to talk about comes exclusively from an article that was posted last night. That would be December 6th on theamericanreport.com, and they previewed it on Brannon House's TV broadcast last night, also with Worldview Weekend. I think I've got that right. Very, very, very powerful. I am going to discuss just as it relates to Fox News, and kind of relate it through my own personal experience, which I think may be the experience of many of you. So I want to show you that article right now, but I've got to say first that this article and the crux of it has to do with two words that I am only going to say once, and I am going to say them in reverse order for censorship reasons, and after that I'm going to use only the first initial. But it has to do with scorecard, and it has to do with hammer, which after this will be referred to as H and S, and we'll see if we can fool the AI people on Facebook. So let me show you this article. I want to show you the headline and read just a couple of bullets from the beginning of this article, but here's the headline. Fox News and Rupert Murdoch knew about H and S since 2013, 7 years ago. For 7 years, Fox News and Rupert Murdoch hid from the American people information the cable news network possessed about cyber warfare weapons, H and S. The H's application, known as S, was used in a covert operation to steal U.S. elections, according to Dennis Montgomery, the CIA contractor turned whistleblower who created H and S. I'm going to read one more. Fox News was complicit in the information warfare campaign, aka psychological warfare operation, to brainwash Americans into believing that Joe Biden had won the election. I suggest you find the article. I suggest, if you have time, that you find the interview and you listen to it. It goes off in a lot of directions that are all connected, but I'm going to discuss it just for a few minutes in light of my own experience, and I think I can do that in one take, okay? And again, thank you for hanging out with me. But folks, this explains an awful lot, at least to me it does. So let me state by saying that for a couple of years now, my wife and I have had a pretty standard routine in the evening when we're ready to be done for the day. we turn on the TV and hit the DVR, and we watch Tucker Carlson. We watch Sean Hannity. Can't always make it through all of Sean Hannity because he always talks over his guests. But let me say this. You know, Sean Hannity, 3 years ago, it was Sean Hannity that had John Solomon and Sarah Carter on regularly when they were first beginning to uncover all the Russiagate hoax stuff. So Sean Hannity has played an important role in information, you know, gathering over the last few years. And it was only a short while ago, 2 weeks before the election, Tucker Carlson was the only one that had Tony Bobulinski, the former business partner of Hunter Biden, when nobody else would touch him. So I raised my hand and say, I'm guilty. I've been a Fox watcher. But then something happened right around the election time. So I'm going to back up. About 2 days before the election, General Thomas McInerney appeared with Steve Bannon, and he talked about H&S, and he said that he had been notified by a contact of his that that would be employed in this 2020 election, and he was sounding the alarm. Then what happened? November 3rd, Trump's ahead. It's a landslide, which it is a landslide. It was a landslide. And then everything shuts down, especially in the key battleground states, and miraculously Santa's elves come out and lay underneath the Christmas tree these Christmas presents for Joe Biden in the fake of phony ballots and phony numbers. So that was November 3rd. Friday, November 6th, bear with me, Sidney Powell appears on Fox Business with Lou Dobbs, and she mentions H&S. Then Sunday, November 8th, she appears with Maria Bartiromo, and she talks about computer algorithms, but she does not mention H&S. Then, checking out interviews with General McInerney, he makes note of that, and he said that someone at Fox News would have had gotten to Maria Bartiromo, and Maria Bartiromo would have had to say, Sidney, I want to have you on, but you cannot mention H&S. And then, if you will notice, shortly thereafter, Tucker Carlson does 2 nights in a row where he doesn't even cover the news. In fact, he began one program by saying, we're going to take a break from the news tonight, even though we're a news program. And you start to see what's really going on. Now, let me back up again. Watching the coverage on Fox News that evening, if you saw it, my gut just said, what is going on, when they trotted Chris Stirewalt out from the command center, and he calls Virginia with about 4% of the vote in with this smirk on his face. They refused to call Florida until there was like 97% of the vote in, and then they prematurely called the state of Arizona right after CNN did. So what might have been going on there? In the article from the American Report, it details that Fox News correspondent Carl Cameron, who is no longer with them but was with them for more than 20 years, spent a week interviewing Dennis Montgomery, the gentleman that created H&S. I hope you're with me, because I can't go back and start this all over again. Fox News is Carl Cameron interviewed Dennis Montgomery, creator of H&S, in 2013, videotaped it. So Fox News knew about H&S going back to 2013. After that series of interviews was done, Dennis Montgomery requested a copy of what they had edited, and Fox refused to give it to him. That's in 2013. In 2014, this is somehow relevant to the story, you've got Rupert Murdoch having a couple of dinner outings with Valerie Jarrett, one of the Marxist leftists high up in the Obama administration. But let's just fast forward to the election, what we already talked about. It was absolutely taboo to talk about H&S, and Mary Fanning, the author of this story, and Alan Jones, co-author of this story, allege that higher-ups at Fox, Murdoch's sons, how far down it goes, we don't know, but they were in on the spin. They were in on the spin. They knew about H&S. They likely knew it would be employed. They knew about its use in other elections, going back to 2018 and going back to 2012. They knew about it. And thereby, if Mary Fanning and Alan Jones are correct, they are complicit, which leads us to think about that executive order that was signed by President Trump September 2018, and I will remind you that the 45-day mark where that report has to be submitted, that's coming up in just a matter of days. And just yesterday, on Sunday, Head of Security Ratcliffe mentioned that there are irregularities. And as I've stated previously, I believe that that executive order, if fully enforced, could mean, and I hope it does, I'm not taking it off the table that certain members of the media could go to jail because they're complicit and they're treasonous. And that might even include ownership or control over the very medium by which you might be seeing this video. So I hope that makes sense, y'all. Go to the article, check out the interview. I can't do it again, but Fox News knew what was going on. I don't know how that muzzles different individuals, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, but I tell you what, it's not the same. I've never gotten all my news from Fox News. I've never been a watcher of the 5 in the morning stuff they do and, you know, all the stuff. I'd see Greg Gutfeld a few minutes here, a few minutes there. But as far as the people that I have paid attention to, which is Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, it's been very, very different. And I think that gives us a good clue as to why. I hope you were able to follow all of that. If this helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. If you hate this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and email this video to as many people as you can. And until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. God bless the United States of America, where Donald Trump is going to be sworn in for a second consecutive term.